Hi, everybody. This is Allison from Alleycat Creations. How are you? Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you have yet to do so. And if you get anything from my work, a connect, a dot, an epiphany, a mind explosion, a new book to read, a new author to explore, please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of the description of this video. Allylatcreations211.com is where you can see artwork. Yes, flamingos. Paint and sip paintings, craft and sips, paintings, pyramids, epoxy fun, candles, all kinds of stuff I have on my website. And if you're interested in purchasing any of it, please email me because I do everything privately. And I have two-tier memberships. I have a 3D and a 4D. And that's where you guys get nice perks. I'm working on emojis currently. We also have, sorry guys, I'm coming down with another cold. You gotta love that. Um, channel member only videos, which oracle readings are what is it? What's at? I do an hour of just like tuning into the collective. Sorry, I get my words all crazy up in my brain. I tune into the collective and the members, and I basically do an hour of a lot of different decks. Um, and it's usually really spot on with the energy going on collectively. I also have raffles that I do here and there where 3D gets one free entry and 4D gets two free entries. So you're getting a lot of value. And 4D, I am working on stuff that within the next day or two, I'm hoping to get complete and do it with people on video. So you guys have some extra fun coming your way. But all channel members and everybody that supports me, I want to thank you so very much from the bottom of my heart. Seriously. Um, a lot going on energetically, a lot going on with me. I have a lot of changes happening in not the best ways in my life, but I guess the universe forces things in not the nicest way. So this is why I do this channel. It's my journey and I'm not alone. But today we're going to continue with Blavatsky, the Holy of Holies. This was it's a huge section, and it was tongue twister for me last time. We'll see how it goes. I'm starting to get very stuffy. I have to start my supplements and doing better for myself. The Holy of Holies, both Kabbalistic and rabbinical, are thus shown as international symbol and common property. Neither has originated with the Hebrews, but owing to the too realistic handling of the half-initiated Levites, the symbol has with them acquired a significance which it hardly has with any other people to this day, and which it was originally never meant to have by the true Kabbalists. The lingam and yani of the modern average Hindu is, on the face of it, of course, no better than the rabbinical Holy of Holies, but it is no worse. And this is a point gained on the Christian traducers of the Asiatic religious philosophies. For in such religious myths, in the hidden symbolism of a creed and philosophy, the spirit of the tenets propounded ought to decide their relative value. And who will say that, examined either way, the so-called wisdom applied solely to the uses and benefit of one little nation has ever developed in anything like national ethics? The prophets are there to show the walk in life before, during, and after the days of Moses, of the chosen but stiff-necked people, that they have had at one time the wisdom, religion, and use of the universal language and its symbols at their disposal and in their possession, is proved by the same esotericism existing to this day in India with regard to the Holy of Holies. This, as said, was and still is the passage through the golden cow in the same stooping position as the one shown in the gallery of the pyramid, which identified man with Jehovah in Hebrew esotericism. The whole difference lies in the spirit of interpretation. With the Hindus, as with the ancient Egyptians, that spirit was and is entirely metaphysical and psychological. With the Hebrews, it was realistic and physiological. It pointed to the first sexual separation of the human race, Eve giving birth to Cain, Jehovah, as shown in the source of measures, to the consummation of terrestrial physiological union and conception, as in the allegory of Cain shedding Abel's blood, Habel, the female principle, in childbearing, a process shown to have begun in the third race, or with Adam's third son, Seth. With those son, Henoch, men began to call themselves Jehovah or Jehovah, that male Jad and Hava or Eve, to wit, male and female beings. Thus, the difference lies in the religious and ethical feeling, but the two symbols are identical. There is no doubt that with the fully initiated Judean, Tananium, the inner sense of the symbolism was as holy in its abstraction as with the ancient Aryan Dwayas, however you pronounce it. The worship of the god in the ark dates only from David, and for 1,000 years Israel knew of no phallic Jehovah, and now the old Kabbalah, edited and re-edited, has become tainted with it. With the ancient Aryans, the hidden meaning was grandiose, sublime, and poetical. However much the external appearance of their symbol may now militate against the claim. The ceremony of passing through the Holy of Holies, now symbolized by the cow, in the beginning through the temple, the radiant egg, I'm not going to pronounce that, in itself a symbol of universal abstract nature, meant spiritual conception and birth, or rather the rebirth of the individual and his regeneration. The stooping man at the entrance of the Sanctum Sanctorum, ready to pass through the matrix of Mother Nature, or the physical creature, ready to re-become the original spiritual being, prenatal man. With the Semitic, that stooping man meant the fall of spirit into matter, and that fall and graduation with hypothesized by him with the result of dragging deity down to the level of man. For the Aryan, the symbol represented the divorce of spirit from matter, its merging into and return to its primal source. For the Semitic, the wedlock of spiritual man with material female nature, the physiological being taking preeminence over the psychological and the purely immaterial. The Aryan views of the symbolism were those of the whole pagan world. The Semite interpretations emanated from and were preeminently those of small tribe, thus marking its national features and the idiosyncratic defects that characterize many of the Jews to this day: gross realism, selfishness, and sensuality. They had made a bargain through their father Jacob with their tribal deity, self-exalted above all others, and a covenant that his seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and that deity could have no better image henceforth than that of the symbol of generation and, as representation, a number and numbers. Interesting. Carlyle has wise words for both these nations. With the Hindu Aryan, the most metaphysical and spiritual people on earth, religion has ever been, in his words, an everlasting lodestar that beams the brighter in the heavens, the darker here on earth grows the night around him. The religion of the Hindu detaches him from this earth. Therefore, even now, the cow symbol is one of the grandest and most philosophical among all others in its inner meaning. To the masters and lords of European potencies, The Israelites' certain words of Carlyle apply still more admirably. For then religion is a wise, prudential feeling grounded on mere calculation, and it was so from its beginning. Having burdened themselves with it, Christian nations feel bound to defend the, I can't see italicized, poetess it at the expense of all the religions. But it was not so with the ancient nations. For them, the passage, entrance, and the sarcophagus in the king's chamber meant regeneration, not generation. It was a most solemn symbol, a holy of holies indeed, wherein were created immortal hierophants and sons of God, never mortal men and sons of lust and flesh, as now in the hidden sense of the Semite Kabbalist. The reason for the difference in the views of the two races is easily to account for. The Aryan Hindu belongs to the oldest races now on earth, the Semite Hebrew to the latest. One is nearly 1 million years old, the other is a small subrace, some 8,000 years old and no more. But phallic worship has developed only with the gradual loss of the keys to the inner meaning of religious symbols. And there was a day when the Israelites had beliefs as pure as the Aryans have. But now Judaism, built solely on phallic worship, has become one of the latest creeds in Asia, and theologically a religion of hate and malice toward everyone and everything outside themselves. Philo, Judas, shows that what was the genuine Hebrew faith. The sacred writings, he says, prescribed what we ought to do, commanding us to hate the heathen and their laws and institutions. They did hate Baal or Bacchus worship publicly, but left it worse features to be followed secretly. And it is with the Talmudic Jews that the grand symbols of nature were the most profound. With them, as now shown by the discovery of the key to the correct Bible reading, geometry, the fifth divine science, fifth, because it is the fifth key in the series of 7 keys to the universal esoteric language and symbology, was desecrated, and by them applied to conceal the most terrestrial and grossly sexual mysteries, wherein both deity and religion were degraded. We are told that it is just the same with our Brahma Praja. I'm skipping that word, it's not coming out. With Osiris and other creative gods. Quite so, when their rites are judged as exoterically and externally, the reverse when their inner meaning is unveiled, as we see. The Hindu Langham is identical with Jacob's pillar, most undeniably, but the difference, as said, seems to consist in that the esoteric significance of the Langham was too truly sacred and metaphysical to be revealed to the profane and the vulgar. Hence, its superficial appearance was left to the speculations of the mob. Nor would the Aryan Hierophant and Brahmin, in their proud exclusiveness and the satisfaction of their knowledge, go to the trouble of concealing its primeval nakedness under cunning and devised fables, whereas the rabbi, having interpreted the symbol to suit his own tendencies, had to veil the crude significance and thus serve a double purpose, that of keeping his secret to himself and of exalting himself in his supposed monotheism over the heathen who has law commanded him to hate. A commandment now gladly accepted by the Christians too, in spite of other and later commandment, love each other. Both India and Egypt had and have their sacred lotus, symbolic of the same Holy of Holies. The lotus growing in the water, a double feminine symbol, the bearer of its own seed and root of all. Brai and Horus are both male symbols, emanating from nature, androgyny nature. Sorry, I can't see italics with my brain. One with Brahma and his female counterpart Bach, the other from Osiris and Isis, never from the one infinite God. In the Judeo-Christian systems, it is different. Whereas a lotus containing Brahma, the universe is shown growing out of Vishnu's navel, the central point in the waters of infinite space, and whereas Horus springs from the lotus of the celestial Nile, all these abstract pantheistic ideas are dwarfed and made terrestrially concrete in the Bible. One is almost inclined to say that in the esoteric, they are grosser and still more anthropomorphic than in their exoteric rendering. Take as an example the same symbol, even in the Christian application, the lilies in the hand of the Archangel Gabriel. In Hinduism, the Holy of Holies is a universal abstraction whose dramatis personae are infinite spirit and nature. In Christian Judaism, it is personal God outside of that nature and the human womb, Eve, Sarah, hence an anthropomorphic phallic God and his image man. Thus, it is maintained that with regard to the contents of the Bible, one of two hypotheses has to be admitted. Either behind the symbolic substitute Jehovah, there was the unknown, incognizable deity, the Kabbalistic Ein Sof, or the Jews have been from the beginning no better than the dead letter Lingam, worshippers of India of today. We say it was former, and that therefore the secret of esoteric worship of the Jews was the same pantheism that the Vedanta philosophers are reproached with today. Jehovah was a substitute for the purposes of an exoteric national faith and had no importance or reality in the eyes of the erudite priests and philosophers. The Sadducees, the most refined as most learned of all Israelite sects, who stand as a living proof with their contemptuous rejection of every belief, save the law. For now could those who invested the stupendous scheme, now known as the Bible, or their successors who knew, as all Kabbalists do, that it was so invented for popular blind, how could they, we ask, feel reverence for such a phallic symbol in a number as Jehovah is shown most undeniably to be in the Kabbalistic works? How could anyone worthy of the name of philosopher and knowing the real secret meaning of their pillar of Jacob, their Bethel, oil anointed valley, and their brazen serpent worship such a gross symbol and minister unto it, seeing in it their covenant, the Lord himself? Let the reader turn to Germana, Sanhedrin, and judge. As various writers have shown, and as brutally stated in Hargrave Jennings' Phallicism, we know that the Jewish records that the ark contained a table of stone. That stone was phallic and yet identical with the sacred name Jehovah, which written in unpointed Hebrew with 4 letters is Jeve or JHVH, the H being merely an aspirate and the same as E. This process leaves us to the 2 letters I and V in another form U. Then if we place the I in the U, we have the Holy of Holies. We also have the Lingam, Yani, and Arga of the Hindus, and the Isvara and the Supreme Lord. And here we have the whole secret of its mystic and arch-celestial import. Confirm in itself by being identical with the Liani of the Ark of the Covenant. Interesting. The biblical Jews of today do not date from Moses, but from David, even admitting the identity of the old genuine with the later and remodeled Mosaic scrolls. Before the time their nationality is lost in the midst of prehistoric darkness, the veil from which is now withdrawn as much as we have space to do so. It is only to the days of the Babylonian captivity that the Old Testament may be referred by the most latent criticism. as the approximately correct views that were current about the days of Moses. Even such fanatical Christians and worshippers of Jehovah as the Reverend Mr. Horn had to admit the numerous changes and alterations made by the latter compilers of the Book of God, since it was found by, I don't know how to say his name, the Elohistic Jehovistic writers, and that the Pentateuch arose out of the primitive or older documents by means of the supplementary one. The Elohistic texts were rewritten 500 years after the date of Moses, the Jehovistic 800 on the authority of the Bible chronology itself. Hence, it is maintained that the deity represented as the organ of generation in his pillars form and as a symbol of the double-sex organ in the numeral value of the letters of his name, or the yod, and the he, or the womb, according to Kabbalistic authority, is of a far latter date that the Elohim symbols and is borrowed from the pagan exoteric rites, and Jehovah is thus on a par with the Lingam and Yani, found on every roadside in India, just as the IAO of the mysteries was distinct from Jehovah, so was the latter Io and Abraxas of the same Gnostic sects, identical with the god of the Hebrews, who was the same with the Egyptian Horus. This is undeniably proven on heathen as on the Gnostic Christian gems. And Matter's collection of such gems, there is a Horus seated on the lotus inscribed Abraxas Io, an address exactly parallel to the frequent, it's Greek, and I'm not reading that, on the contemporary heathen gems, and therefore only to be translated by Abraxas is the one Jehovah. But who is Abraxas? As the same author shows, the numerical Kabbalistic value of the name Abraxas directly referred to the Persian title of the god Mithra, ruler of the year, worshipped from the earliest times under the appellation of Io. Thus, the sun in one aspect, the moon or the lunar genius in another, that generative deity whom the Gnostics saluted as thou that presidest over the mysteries of the Father and the Son, who shinest in the night time, holding the second rank, the first Lord of death. It is only in his capacity of genius of the moon, the latter being credited in the older cosmogony with being the parent of our earth, that Jehovah could ever be regarded as a creator of our globe and its heaven, namely the firmament. The knowledge of all this will be no proof, however, to the average bigot. Missionaries will go on with the most virulent attacks on the religions of India, and Christians read the same benighted smile of satisfaction as ever these preposterously unjust words of Coleridge. It is highly worthy of observation that the inspired writings received by Christians are distinguishable from all other books pretending to inspiration, from the scriptures of the Brahmins and even from the Koran, in their strong and frequent recommendations of truth. Wow. And we're going to end that one here. It's a little on the short side, but the next is on the myth of the fallen angel and its various aspects. And holy crap, that's my wheelhouse. So we'll read that the next time. This one finishes up that section. Sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, shielding, and protective energy. Please go within. Be the shoulder, be the lighthouse, seed your truth. So light that path forward. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Support me in any way that you can. And I can't wait to read this next chapter. It is going to be phenomenal. Phenomenal. Obviously, I'm getting under the weather. I just took some stuff. So I do apologize for that. I will I'm still not sure what I'm doing on Friday. It is Halloween, and I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to have a live, but at some point there will be a live this weekend. Just stay tuned. Uh, Halloween is here. So just make sure you are hanging out, being with yourself, tapping in, and I hope to see you all in the next one. Thank you for watching. Have a blessed and beautiful day ahead. Bye for now.